Our story begins. In a corner of the universe, there's a peaceful planet named Earth, by humans. The scene moves to an Asian country called Japan, also named by humans. It's monsoon season, so the rain is pouring heavily. We see a 3-story old building. Something tragic has happened here. A man's lifeless body lies on the ground. A young man has died alone. As this occurs, a phenomenal activity begins and his soul starts moving, reflecting his past memories. So what happens? In these memories, we see what he was doing just an hour ago. He had plans with his friends to go see the cherry blossoms tomorrow. Suddenly, it started raining. The boy remembered that he had left clothes out to dry and now they were getting soaked. He rushed to take in the laundry, especially his underwear. He only had one pair and couldn't let it get wet, but the old rusted balcony railing gave way as soon as he placed his hand on it. He fell from the top floor and died. "I'm so sorry, my friends," he whispered in his final moments. "I couldn't keep my promise." Just after he died, he heard a voice calling out to him, "Tensu." As he opened his eyelids, he saw something shocking. A pink cat whose eyes were brimming with tears. "Thank goodness you're alive. Are you okay? You collapsed. Did something happen to you?" the cat asked as it moved closer to him. Tensu, in a state of panic, screamed. "What is this creature?" he thought, shivering in fear. The pussy tilted its head. "Could it be? Were you mugged? You don't seem to have any belongings either." Tensu swung his hand defensively, shouting, "Stay away!" That's when he noticed something horrifying. His hands. They were blue and gray with sharp claws. Tensu froze. What is this? As far as he could remember, he used to have soft hands, hands that supported his single virgin life. Then he touched the grass and realized the painful truth. He was no longer human. Sweat dripped from his forehead as he checked his body. Something was missing. Refusing to believe it, he ran. The pink was startled and started chasing after him. "What is this place? Wasn't I dead? What's happening?" Tensu thought, his mind racing. He finally reached an open area and his eyes widened in disbelief. Before him were giant chickens he had never seen before, ancient rock-style houses, and strange, unidentified terrestrial beings. It was some sort of bustling marketplace. Everything was foreign to him, unlike anything he'd ever seen in anime or manga. Another world. Should look more like what I've seen in anime, Tensu thought. But this is completely different. It was too much to process. He was in a world he knew nothing about, with no family and no connections, just this pink whom he couldn't even remember. As Tensu moved slowly through the market, the cat asked, "Is this your first time in this city? You seem unfamiliar with it." Tensu, still confused, remained silent. He tried to respond, but before he could, he heard something that caught his attention. A slave trader was auctioning off slaves. "Fresh slaves, all species, starting at 100 Bitcoin, he shouted. The bidding quickly rose from $110 to $200. As Tensu tried to make sense of the situation, the cat tugged at him nervously. "We need to get out of here, quickly. I'll explain later, just follow me," the cat said. They ran out of the marketplace. "What was that all about?" Tensu asked, his voice trembling. The cat replied, "This city attracts all sorts of folks, from alien traffickers to rare item traders. They come here to trade anything and everything. You need to be careful or you might get caught and sold into slavery." Tensu felt a chill run down his spine. He stopped and stared at the pussy, doubt creeping into his mind. "I followed this thing carelessly. Could it be?" Sensing Tensu's hesitation, the cat said, "I'm sorry. I didn't mean to scare you." The cat lifted its fur to reveal a mark on its waist. "I was a slave too," it admitted. The cat began to explain its story. "I'm from a different planet. My species isn't good for much except for having sturdy bodies. Unfortunately, that worked against us. My entire species was kidnapped and sold off as slaves. Only a handful could endure the harsh conditions of the laboratory. The pussy had this hole because of the relentless labor. Despite his miserable life, he was lucky someone helped him escape. That someone became his idol, and now he dedicates himself to helping others in their times of trouble." As Tensu listened intently to his story, his stomach growled, making him blush with embarrassment. The pussy smiled and said, "Let's get some food first. If you'd like, come to my place." At the dining table, they continued talking. The pussy quickly realized that Tensu had amnesia. He didn't remember where he came from or why he was here. While the pussy enjoyed his meal, Tensu hadn't touched a single dish. The pussy tilted his head. I gathered ingredients that your species generally likes. I'm sure the taste or smell might trigger your memories. Encouraged, Tensu decided to try a bite. He picked up a small tentacle-like creature and put it into his mouth. To his surprise, it was delicious. Hope glimmered in the pussy's eyes. Did it help you remember anything? Tensu hesitated, then apologized. Sorry, I still can't remember. He thought to himself. This food tastes naturally good, even though it's completely unfamiliar. Tensu's mind wandered as he analyzed his situation. He had become an unknown creature in an unknown world, yet retained the memories of being human. Claiming he had amnesia was simply the easiest way to avoid complicated explanations. As they continued eating the mouth-watering food, the pussy asked, Do you at least remember your name? What should I call you? Tensu thought back. His human name was Tano Haruto, but now some idiot is calling me. He remembered how his classmates used to call him Nino as a joke, so he decided to go with that name here too. My name is Nino, he said. Call me Nino. The pussy grinned. Then you are Nino Nautilus? This surprised Nino. Why Nautilus? He asked. The pussy explained. In this world, it's customary to include your species in your name. I'm from the Jack species, so I'm Pussy Jack. After exchanging names, Jack said, It's time for some news. Do you mind if I check the news stone? I do it every day. Nino noticed that the news stone was similar to a TV. The news anchor's voice rang out. We have breaking news. The wealthy Mr. Sagon has announced that he will be putting part of his collection up for auction at the next event. The screen shifted to an image of a smug alien. The announcer continued, Mr. Sagon, known for possessing numerous rare items, has a particularly eye-catching piece this time. The famous blue jewel, the renowned star. Nino's jaw dropped as the next announcement hit him like a thunderbolt. The ownership rights to Earth. His heart raced. The announcer continued. Earth, boasting a history of billions of years, is being put up for auction for the first time. Nino's thoughts spiraled. This is just like slave trading. But how can anyone auction off an entire planet? He felt a pang of guilt as he thought, even when I died, I believed the world would continue unchanged. But who could have imagined this? Looking at the screen, a surge of determination filled him. Am I truly 1 in 8 billion who now holds Earth's fate in my hands? Is this my second chance to protect my home planet? Nino was still in shock, refusing to believe that Earth was actually up for auction. His mind raced as he tried to process the absurdity of it all. Observing his troubled expression, Jack tilted his head and asked, Do you perhaps know something about Earth? Nino fell silent. What should I say? How do I even explain my situation to him? After hesitating for a moment, he mumbled, No, I was on Earth before coming here. Jack's eyes widened in complete disbelief before he suddenly freaked out. For a second, Nino thought Jack might actually know something about Earth, or even about humans. But then, just as suddenly, Jack's shock turned into excitement, and he bombarded him with questions. Amazing! How did you get residency rights? Other planets' life forms are supposed to be excluded. That's incredible. Wow! Then, as if a realization struck him like lightning, Jack paused and gasped. Wait, so the place you lived in is the one being put up for sale. A chill ran down Nino's spine. His body stiffened. I guess that's what it means, he muttered. The reality was finally sinking in. To think Earth was someone's property in the first place, a terrifying thought crossed his mind. If Earth is really going to be sold, if that becomes a reality, what will happen to the people and creatures living there? Jack's ears drooped slightly as he pondered Nino's question. It wasn't easy to answer. Well, it's hard to say, Jack admitted. There are many types of star buyers. The current owner of Earth is really passionate about environmental protection and preservation. They've kept it completely isolated from any outside interference, maintaining its natural state. Nino swallowed hard. Jack continued. But if it gets bought by someone who only cares about profit, all of Earth's resources might be depleted, turning it into a dead planet. Nino clenched his fists under the table. Jack hesitated before adding in a lower voice. There are even those who destroy planets for entertainment, celestial explosion shows, a business for the rich. Nino's breath hitched. It's impossible to predict what might happen, Jack finished grimly. Then, Jack suddenly turned to Nino and asked, So, what are you going to do? Nino blinked in surprise. He stared at Jack confused. What do you mean, what am I going to do? Jack looked him straight in the eyes. "There's nothing I can do," Nino said flatly. Then he frowned. "And why is this suddenly about me anyway?" Jack's big round eyes welled up with tears as he whimpered. "But Earth is... if it falls into the hands of terrible people, it'll be irreversible," Nino snapped, his frustration boiling over. "Even if you say that, my own situation is still uncertain. What the hell can I possibly do?" Jack flinched, his ears drooping even lower. Seeing his dejected face made Nino feel guilty. He sighed, rubbing his temples. "I'm sorry," Nino muttered. "I was just confused." Then suddenly he slammed his hand on the table and stood up. The loud thud startled Jack, making him jolt. "Nino," Jack called out. "I'm going out for some fresh air," Nino said, walking toward the door. Jack watched him leave, his expression filled with concern. He could tell Nino was struggling. He didn't want to see his home planet auctioned off. Jack had faced something similar before. He understood that pain all too well. Outside, Nino wandered the streets, lost in thought. Ownership rights. For Earth? He clenched his teeth. What kind of ridiculous conversation is this? Did he have to do something about it? Was it even his responsibility? After all, he was the only one here who truly knew Earth. "Atches, what a pain," he grumbled, running a hand through his hair. Why did things have to turn out so complicated? As he walked aimlessly, something suddenly bumped against his leg. He looked down. A small, round, yellow object rolled toward him. "Is this an egg?" Before he could react, a Medusa-like alien rushed over. "I'm so sorry, that's ours," the alien said, slightly out of breath. "It must have rolled all the way there." Nino glanced at the aliens, then back at the egg. He figured they must have dropped it. As a simple act of kindness, he bent down, picked it up, and held it out to them. But the moment he did, the Medusa-like alien shrieked. Nino blinked in confusion. The alien suddenly smacked the egg out of his hands, making it crash to the ground and break. Nino was stunned. "What the hell are you doing?" The alien glared at him in disgust. "How disgusting. Don't touch my things without permission." Nino stood there, mouth slightly open, completely dumbfounded. Then the murmurs started. "Did he really just pick up something someone else dropped?" One alien whispered. Another scoffed. "What is he? A slave?" A third alien sneered. "Huh? Why's a slave walking around alone? You lowly scum," someone muttered. "Are you an escapee?" Just then, another Medusa-like alien, apparently the first one's sister, stepped forward. "But sis isn't even wearing a slave collar," she pointed out, "and I don't see an owner around either." The first Medusa's eyes gleamed with a wicked grin. "Now that you mention it, maybe he ran away from somewhere." Both of them exchanged evil smirks. "We were just short on someone to carry our stuff." Before Nino could react, she suddenly swung something toward him. A sharp metal hook latched onto his neck. Pain shot through his entire body. Blood dripped down his skin. Nino's eyes widened in horror. A scream of agony tore from his throat. The Medusa-like woman burst into laughter. What a lovely sound you make. I like it. I can't wait to hear what other sounds you'll make tonight." Nino's eyes widened in horror. He grabbed the hook around his neck, trying to yank it off, but it wouldn't budge. "What is this?" He gritted his teeth, using all his strength to pull at it, but it was useless. Frustration boiled over as he shouted, What the hell are you doing all of a sudden? Are you crazy?" His outburst only made the Medusa sisters laugh even harder. "You just act like a slave yourself, then complain about being treated like one. How hilarious." Nino's breathing grew unsteady. Panic surged through him. They smirked cruelly. "If you're going to curse something, curse that ingrained lowly nature of yours. Now, get up, move." With a vicious tug on the hook, pain shot through Nino's body, making his eyes sting with tears. "Slave? I'm not a slave. Why wasn't anyone stopping this? Why was no one helping him?" Desperate, Nino planted his feet firmly on the ground, refusing to move. He would not let them drag him away. Then, "Nino!" A familiar voice rang through the air. Before the Medusa sisters could react, something pink and fast came flying toward them. Smack! Jack landed directly on the Medusa's face, flailing wildly as he attacked her with all his might. The Medusa's snake hair hissed and snapped at Jack, trying to pull him off. Nino stared, stunned. "What's with this guy?" The Medusa finally managed to rip Jack away from her face and, with a powerful swing, hurled him straight into a nearby stall. Jack groaned in pain. barely able to move. The Medusa sisters scowled. "You've got some nerve acting so cocky," one of them sneered. "Should I make you a slave too?" Jack trembled but forced himself to reach out. His shaking fingers grabbed a red fruit from the ground. With whatever strength he had left, he threw it at the Medusa's face. Smack! The fruit burst open, releasing a strange and hissing aroma. Nearby, a group of shell-like aliens with massive single eyes twitched. The scent had caught their attention. Before the Medusa could comprehend what was happening, the jelly-like creatures charged at her. Fire lit on top of their shell, while they removes a giant tongue that is ready to make her wet. The Medusa's expression turned from anger to horror. No. Wait. But it was too late. One after another, the shell creatures latched onto her, their fiery tongues licking across her body. The more they licked, the hotter they became. And then, boom, a massive explosion erupted. The second Medusa gasped. Hanoguri bait? That brat actually used Hanoguri bait? Watching the chaos unfold, Nino stood frozen, his mind barely processing the insanity. What the hell? This is insane. This is like some kind of alien live corn hub. Then, he felt something touching him down there. His breath hitched. He turned and saw a trembling, injured Jack lying at his feet, looking up at him with a weak but genuine smile. I'm glad I made it in time." Nino's chest tightened. His throat burned. He didn't hesitate. He picked Jack up and started running. With teary eyes, Nino clenched his jaw. "I will never forget this moment for the rest of my life." Jack rested his head against Nino, exhausted. Nino was fully determined. He had to get out of this place. He had to run, far, far away. After what felt like hours of running, they finally reached a barren wasteland. Nino sat down, completely drained. His mind was clouded. His body ached. Jack, still shivering from his injuries, sat beside him. "Nino, are you okay?" Jack asked, his voice barely above a whisper. Nino didn't respond. He didn't move. His face remained buried in his arms. Jack tilted his head. "I must have been heavy, huh?" he chuckled weakly. "But I'm so glad we managed to escape safely." Silence. Then, "No, it's not okay." Nino gritted his teeth, his voice trembling. Painfully, he asked, "Why? Why are you only worried about me? You're the one who got beaten up, aren't you? Even though I left on my own, you still came for me." Nino turned to him, eyes glistening. Jack hesitated before asking, "Why did you go so far to help me?" And then he broke, placed his forehead against the ground and sobbed. Watching him like that, it made Nino's heart ache even more. Jack's voice wavered as he said, "If someone's crying somewhere in the world, how could I ever enjoy my meal pretending I don't know?" Nino's breath hitched. He slowly lifted his head. Jack chuckled awkwardly, slightly embarrassed. "I mean, I'm just quoting the person who saved me once." He looked at Nino, smiling softly. "It doesn't matter if we only just met, because when someone's in trouble, we're all in this together." Jack's words hit Nino like a wave crashing against a broken shore. His vision blurred, tears began falling, but not from sadness, not from happiness, but from something else entirely. "Hope." Nino choked back a sob, wiping his face as he muttered, spouting all these pretty words. Nino looked at him, eyes still wet. Then softly, he whispered, "Thanks for saving me." Jack blinked in surprise, then smiled widely. At that moment, Nino realized something. He was tired. So tired of this place. It felt like a prison. His mental state was at its breaking point. Jack silently observed him, then gently spoke. "Nino." Nino glanced at him. "Let's go back," Jack said. Nino's heart stopped. Jack's eyes were filled with sincerity. "Let's go back," he repeated. "To Earth." Nino's breath caught in his throat. He lifted his head, staring at Jack through tear-filled eyes. Confused, he whispered, "What are you saying?" Jack grinned. "We're going to Earth." Silence. Nino just stared. His mind went blank. He kept staring, and time passed. Legend says, even to this day, Nino is still staring at Jack with that same blank face. He is completely confused. He doesn't believe Jack's words. Panicking, Jack says, "We are going to win the auction for Earth that's been put up for sale." Nino doesn't understand anything. He asks, "Is that how it works?" Jack responds, "Yeah." To explain it roughly, as things are now, we can't approach Earth. The owner is blocking interference from other planets, so no one can enter. But if the owner changes, who knows what the situation will be? If you want to return to Earth as it is, I think obtaining ownership is the surest way. Nino doesn't know what to say. Even if you tell me such a dreamlike story, then Nino turns toward Jack and notices something. His eyes. The hope. The belief. Jack says, "There's nothing left on my planet anymore, but there's still time for yours." Nino thinks for a moment, then asks, "But first of all, how much does Earth cost? It's not like aliens will understand or use the same currency as Earth. Besides, he's totally broke. This is way beyond just shopping." Then he looks at Jack for an answer. Jack too is thinking, nervously. Nino moves closer to Jack and says, "Don't tell me you irresponsibly told me to buy it without even knowing the price." Jack loses all his cool. Actually, to be honest, I don't really have an idea." Nino gives him a look. Jack says, "I think the going rate when Earth was first bought and sold was 1,0,0,0,0,0,0,0,0,0,0,0,0,0,0,0,0,0,0,0,0,0,0,0,0,0,0,0,0,0,0,0,0,0,0,0,0,0,0,0,0,0,0,0,0,0,0,0,0,0,0,0,0,0,0,0,0,0,0,0,0,0,0,0,0,0,0,0,0,0,0,0,0,0,0,0,0,0,0 says earlier, longer, or bigger." Nino shouts, "Wait, wait, wait, wait. First of all, what's E? I only understand Earth's currency." Jack says, "By the way, I don't know if this helps, but the guy who bought me got me for 1,000 E." Nino remains stunned. "What? Don't make jokes that aren't funny. What's 1,000? Is that cheap? It's cheap, right?" Jack freaks out and says, "It's cheap. It's a bargain price for a serious, honest, hardworking, trustworthy servant." Jack then continues, "In other words, if Nino sells me to someone 10 million times, that's how much we'd need." Nino is dumbfounded by this method of calculation. He tries to control his laughter. This surprises Jack. He becomes happy and cheerfully asks, "Did you laugh?" "Wow, Nino laughed. I am so glad we did it." He starts jumping around him. "You've cheered up a bit." Then Nino picks him up, pissed off. "Don't make me laugh with such inappropriate jokes." Jack obediently follows his command. Then Nino accepts that maybe laughing is better than being depressed and lightly says, "Thanks." This makes Jack feel like he has achieved something great. He excitedly says, "All right, it's decided. The only way is forward, right? Project Return to Earth." He's optimistic. And now, Phase 1. Operation Win Earth at Auction. Begin. Meanwhile, in Keppa's incense shop, a medicinal herb shop, a seal-like creature is grinding some herbs when someone arrives. The seal greets him, "Mr. Chase." This shark-like alien is Chase, the hunter. The seal, Keppa, the incense shop owner, asks, "Would you like your usual blend?" Chase nods. "I brought the promised goods." He takes out a beast head from his bag, a Metreon head, then the second item, 3 best quality tarots, and a set of 10 arraign abdomens. And finally, the one he's been waiting for, a cluster of glow forest juveniles. The seal praises him. "To hunt and gather such rare items in such a short time, you're one of the handful of hunters who can do this. No wonder everyone calls you that." He will arrange the payment as usual. Then he pauses and calls out. The shark says, "What is it? Did I miss something?" The seal responds, "No, it's not that. I was wondering if you'd like to try hunting in the city for a change. I've got some interesting bounty information." "Yeah, what a bounty, a bump it out." The shark grins. "These guys look interesting." The bounty? None other than Nino and Jack. The mission: capture them, preferably alive. Additional rewards depending on conditions. Bounty on Pussy Jack is 1,000,000 E, and bounty on Nino Nautilus is 700,000 E. The task condition is to hand them over as a pair. And the client? The Medusa siblings. The shark laughs. "They've got some troublesome people after them, huh? What did these guys do?" The seal shrugs. "Well, I don't know the details, but they must have earned some deep grudges, that's for sure." The shark smirks. "Add this to my usual order." The seal hesitates. However, it's a bit difficult to say after recommending it, but this hunt is quite competitive. Please be careful of any trouble. The shark grins. This looks fun. Scene shifts to Nino and Jack. Jack is trying to find a way to remove the chain from Nino. It's a very sharp and troublesome chain. Jack examines it closely. Looks like they couldn't remove it immediately. It's not a regular commercial product. It's custom made, and the type that won't let go once it bites into bone. We probably shouldn't mess with it ourselves. You're right, Jack reassures him. It's okay, Nino. Someone made this chain, so there must be someone who can remove it. Let's start with what we can do. Nino thinks for a moment. Like always, Jack is optimistic. He smiles. Yeah, you're right. As Jack looks at the chain, memories of his past as a slave come flooding back. I heard something a long time ago. If you go through the wilderness, from this city to the acid swamp on the west side, beyond that, there's a skilled doctor who can treat any injury or illness. Nino's eyes widen. Then, if we find that person, Jack nods excitedly. That's right. They'll surely help you, Nino. The scene shifts to a bustling market area. Nino calls out to Jack, remarking, "Isn't that disguise making us look too suspicious?" Jack glances around and agrees, noticing that all the nearby aliens are staring at them. Indeed, their appearance stands out like a beacon. Our journey is not going to be easy, Jack says. And since we caused that incident with the Medusa siblings, we have to keep a low profile. Nino apologizes to Jack for their indiscretion, and Jack smiles wryly, adding, "Even though I'm not in perfect condition, I still want us to have a comfortable journey." Before they can set off, they realize that they need to rent some form of transport. Nino, still confused by the hectic atmosphere, asks for clarification. Jack explains it's not possible to cover a long journey just by walking. We need a creature that can move quickly and carry us on its back. For example, a cabbage chicken. They have light steps and can easily maneuver through the swamp. It will make our journey a lot easier. Nino nods, understanding that it's basically like riding a horse in this bizarre new world. Jack then points toward a vendor who rents out travel beasts, and Nino observes that the shop has the appearance of a rental car dealership rather than a traditional animal rental stall. Jack, with a hint of youthful enthusiasm, calls out to the seller. The seller greets them warmly, and Jack explains, "I'd like to rent 2 mounts that are strong enough to defend themselves, and we'll also need a map of the Wild West." At first, the seller seems agreeable, but as soon as he recognizes his customers, his expression changes dramatically. "I can't believe I'm suddenly out of stock," he exclaims apologetically. "I'm so sorry, but I don't have any mounts available right now." This news shocks Jack, who retorts, "But there are 3 behind you," the seller sighs. "They are already booked by someone else." Then adds, however, "I can introduce you to another rental shop if you like." Just then, a voice rings out, "Hey, you two, are you in trouble?" Jack and Nino turn to see a man cloaked in shadows. It's the same shark hunter that the audience is familiar with, though neither Nino nor Jack recognize his true identity. The seller notices him and immediately freaks out. The shark hunter grins and says, "I guess you need an acid-resistant beast, right? I'll take care of that for you." He strides confidently over to the vendor and begins selecting a mount for their journey. The seller, still clearly panicking, tells Jack, "You're in luck. The shark is not only a guide, but also the one who booked the beast. While you're at it, why not let him guide you to your destination?" Jack and Nino exchange excited glances, their eyes alight with hope. Jack asks the shark hunter if he will serve as their guide. After a brief moment of hesitation, the shark hunter nods and grins broadly, pointing his thumb over his shoulder. "No problem," he says, revealing that he has arranged 2 cabbage chickens and a camel-like alien beast for their journey. The shark hunter then remarks, "That was a close call for you two, wasn't it?" Jack, still confused, inquires, "What do you mean by that?" The shark replies, "That rental guy, Nanoki, is infamous for hooking travelers up with unscrupulous deals and pocketing hefty brokerage fees. Had you followed him blindly, you'd have been broke, or worse, sold as slaves." This revelation sends a shiver down both Nino's and Jack's spines. Jack begins shivering as he contemplates their uncertain future, and the shark hunter laughs heartily, advising, "Next time, do your research before traveling. As long as you don't get fooled, you'll be fine." In a low whisper, Jack confides to Nino, "I'm really glad we met someone like him." Nino agrees, thinking to himself that perhaps this town isn't filled entirely with bad people, and a small smile tugs at his lip. The shark hunter then takes a moment to adjust Nino's cloak, ensuring his face is well concealed. If you're going to travel through the wilderness, a proper coat is essential, he advises firmly. Once both travelers are appropriately outfitted, they are finally ready to leave. The shark hunter calls out, "Let's go," as they mount their newly rented beasts and begin their journey. Jack and Nino feel a mix of relief and trepidation. The lively market fades into the distance, and with every step, they grow more determined to avoid further trouble. Their hearts pound with anticipation of the challenges ahead, but for now, they are united in purpose. As they traveled, Jack felt a surge of excitement while riding atop the cabbage chicken, whereas Nino suffered from severe motion sickness. "Are you okay?" Jack asked, glancing over at him. But Nino's face was pale. It was clear he was unwell. The shark guide then inquired, "Do you have motion sickness?" Nino hesitated before replying, "Maybe I'm just not used to it." In truth, he had been disliked by animals since childhood, which might explain his discomfort. "I didn't notice it at all," Jack remarked, genuine concern in his eyes. "Are you sure you're all right?" Nino managed a weak smile and insisted that he would soon get accustomed to the ride, adding that he was happy Jack cared about him. Jack's eyes welled with tears at Nino's words, and the shark guide grinned approvingly. Then, in a hushed tone, Nino whispered to Jack, "Did we actually ask for a guide? Is that really a good idea?" Jack turned his gaze toward the shark guide and with a bright smile replied, "It's okay, I trust him. Not many would offer this much help to a complete stranger." Nino decided to take Jack's word for it, thinking that if Jack, a kind soul, trusted everyone, then perhaps everyone was kind. Meanwhile, Nino continued struggling with his motion sickness. They traveled for a long while until suddenly Jack exclaimed, "I have eyes that see people. Nino, you're a good person too, aren't you?" Nino blushed deeply and his face turned red as he retorted, "You're too trusting of others." "What kind of person are you?" Jack teased. "You're blushing, aren't you?" Their friendly banter continued, while the shark guide observed their exchange with an amused grin. After a few moments, they reached a massive, majestic gate. The shark guide announced, "If you pass through this gate, you'll leave the city and enter the wilderness." As they gazed up at the enormous gate, he continued, "Whatever happens from now on is your responsibility. Pull yourself together and go." Beyond the gate's tunnel, a brilliant light shone, beckoning them forward. After traversing the tunnel, they emerged into a barren land where the only greenery was the cabbage chicken on which they were traveling. Nino grew increasingly nervous as the harsh landscape unfolded before them. "Your legs must be trembling right now," the shark remarked knowingly. Jack was also anxious. This was the Wild West, a land teeming with monstrous predators. As they moved on, they encountered the remnants of past battles, monster skeletons half buried in the sand, strange toads, and various shell-like creatures scattered about. Soon, the wind intensified, whipping up sand particles until it became nearly impossible to keep their eyes open. "If your eyes hurt, just leave it to us," the shark said confidently. "These mounts can see through the winds. For them, this is no more than a stroll in a garden." Jack tried to speak, but the abrasive sand left his eyes itching uncontrollably. The shark insisted, "Keep your eyes closed until we get through this storm, and trust me, I'll lead you to your destination." Nino grew doubtful. Did he even tell us where we're headed? He attempted to whisper to Jack, but the fierce wind muffled his words. Just as he was about to suggest that perhaps the shark had ulterior motives, a sudden blast of sand erupted, further impairing their vision. The shark, clearly aware of the situation, bellowed, "Seriously, I knew it wouldn't be this easy," as he glanced backward and caught sight of a faint, cracking light in the distance. The harsh winds and swirling sands, combined with the tension of their journey, left them both on edge. Yet, despite the challenges, they pressed on. Jack, clearly confused, called out, "Guide?" At that moment, it became evident that the shark's vision was entirely different from normal. He could detect the heat waves emitted by objects and even notice subtle cracking noises coming from 3 aliens on their backs. The shark then shouted, "Bandits, let's run!" Jack, his eyes itching from the dusty air, tried to grasp the situation, but before he could speak further, the shark repeated, "It's an enemy attack." In a heartbeat, they all began to run. As Nino turned to look back, he saw a peculiar, fast-moving alien chasing after them. Its head resembled a shell with several red eyes peeking out from holes along its surface. Nino's heart pounded in fear. Then the black alien removed its sling, loaded it with a large rock, and hurled it toward them. The rock struck Nino's cabbage chicken's rear, causing the poor creature to let out a pained scream. The sudden jolt from the chicken's unexpected movement threw Nino off balance and he tumbled to the ground. Both the shark and Jack were momentarily shocked by his fall. When Nino finally opened his eyes, he realized that his mount, the cabbage chicken, had abandoned him, leaving him helpless on the ground. Before he could scramble to catch it, the black alien advanced behind him, raising a sharp dagger, poised to strike. Just as Nino thought that his end was inevitable, the black alien's mysterious skill suddenly shattered. Seizing the moment, the shark delivered a powerful elbow strike that sent the alien sprawling. Nino struggled to rise from the dusty ground, and the shark asked urgently, "Can you stand up?" With great effort, Nino managed to get to his feet, his body trembling from the ordeal. The shark then observed, "These killers usually don't operate during this season, which means..." He paused, his eyes narrowing as he deduced that the attackers were after the reward on Nino and Jack. It wasn't long before they were surrounded by numerous black aliens. Amid the folds of one cloaked figure, the shark spotted a task paper, which confirmed his suspicions. This revelation excited the shark, and he grinned broadly, clearly pleased with the news. Meanwhile, Nino couldn't understand why these robbers would target poor, desperate people like him. Nevertheless, he knew they had no choice but to find a way to escape this dire predicament. As the scene heated up, they found themselves surrounded by 3 black aliens. At the center stood Nino and Mr. Chase. While Chase was a professional hunter, Nino was, by all accounts, a single awkward loser. Suddenly, all 3 aliens vanished into thin air. Nino was shocked and frantically tried to track them, only to notice that Chase was grinning as if he could see them with a different kind of perception. Without hesitation, Chase removed his cloak and revealed his weapon, much to Nino's surprise. No sooner had the aliens reappeared than Chase began to block their attacks with his sword, his movement swift and precise. In the chaos, one of the aliens managed to grab Nino and take him hostage. However, before the situation could worsen, a headshot was delivered, blood spurting from the captive alien's head. Anxiously, Nino turned to look back at the lifeless body of the black alien, and then, as he shifted his gaze back to Chase, he noticed how Chase had dispatched the attackers so quickly that even his eyes could barely follow his speed. Now it was Chase versus the remaining 2 aliens. These assassin-like aliens were renowned for their speed, so fast, in fact, that ordinary eyes could scarcely track their movements. Yet, unlike others, Chase could clearly see their body heat even when they vanished from view. To him, their frantic display was little more than entertainment. He grinned as one of the aliens lunged forward with his sword, only to be easily dodged by Chase. With effortless precision, Chase evaded every incoming attack. As Nino watched in disbelief, he realized it was as if Chase had predicted every move the enemies would make. The aliens, using their sharp, limb-like appendages as blades, attempted to overwhelm him, but Chase eventually shattered one of their weapons. Using the same technique, he swiftly dispatched another alien. After defeating 2 of the attackers and leaving the remaining ones badly injured, the aliens soon realized they were no match for him and retreated hastily. Nino was left utterly astonished by the unfolding events. Then, suddenly, he heard a terrified scream from Jack. Their mounts had returned. A cat-like beast had seized Jack in its jaws. Jack pleaded, "Please, I'm a good kid, let me go. I have to help Nino." In that frantic moment, as Chase believed the danger had passed, something dashed by his side. It was Nino, who had resolved to rescue his best buddy. The cat-like beast released Jack, who was left with tears filling his eyes. Nino rushed to embrace Jack, overcome with emotion as the terrifying ordeal weighed on him. Though shaken, Nino was relieved that his friend was alive. Just when Chase thought the battle was over, a new problem emerged. They did not have enough mounts to carry them further on their journey. He moved closer to Jack and Nino, and it became clear that the black aliens were still lurking nearby, unwilling to let their prey escape. The aliens produced a strange device, an artifact that, when attached to their leg, seemed to power them up. With this newfound boost, They grew even faster. Before Chase could react, the aliens dashed past him. As soon as Chase sensed their presence again, he shouted for everyone to face down the threat, but it was too late. Jack was no longer clutched in Nino's arm. His hands were empty. When Nino looked up, he saw two aliens had kidnapped Jack. They stabbed him with a sharp implement, and blood began to flow as Jack was injured before, suddenly, they disappeared without a trace, leaving Nino alone and desperate. He cried out for Jack, his voice echoing in the chaos. After they vanished with Jack, all that remained was his discarded cloak. Nino and Chase could hardly believe their eyes. Jack had been kidnapped right before them. Without hesitation, Nino dashed in the direction from which the aliens had disappeared, his heart pounding in his chest. When he reached the area, he discovered that one of the black aliens had left behind a mysterious object. It resembled a delicate flower bud, its petals dark and foreboding. And as soon as Nino came within range, it erupted violently, spewing a thick cascade of purple liquid that splattered across the ground. The stench was overpowering, and as the acidic substance evaporated, its dangerous nature became clear. At that moment, Chase's keen senses caught the disturbance, and he shouted, "Stop!" But it was too late. Nino had already stepped on the hazardous substance, triggering its corrosive effect. In a heartbeat, Chase lunged forward and grabbed Nino, pulling him away from the perilous zone just in time. Overwhelmed by fear and desperation, Nino cried out, "Let me go!" His voice trembled with panic as the acrid smell of acid burned his nostrils. "Don't be reckless," Chase warned urgently. "This acid is incredibly strong. It'll dissolve everything in its path, leaving nothing but bones behind." Despite the stern warning, Nino struggled fiercely. He could not bear the thought of abandoning his only family in this unforgiving new world, and he continued to thrash his legs wildly, even as the corrosive liquid gnawed at the ground beneath him. In a heart-wrenching moment, his struggles grew feeble, and he eventually lost consciousness, succumbing to the overwhelming pain. Realizing the imminent danger, Chase acted swiftly. He produced a slender needle-like device and pressed it against Nino's neck, ensuring that his friend slipped into a deep, controlled unconsciousness, sparing him further harm. Once convinced that Nino was stabilized, Chase gently laid him on the cold, hard ground and paused to consider their next move. With a soft murmur of regret, he apologized to the unresponsive Nino, lamenting the cruelty of their circumstances. Sometime later, while adrift in a troubled dream, Nino saw a vision of Jack reaching out to him, a fleeting glimpse of hope that momentarily lifted his spirits. However, when he tried to respond, Jack remained silent, leaving Nino confused and despondent. Abruptly, the vision faded, and Nino awoke with a start. He found himself lying on a bed in a room he did not recognize. The space was modestly furnished, with neatly arranged vegetables and groceries hinting at a semblance of normalcy amid the chaos. Dazed and anxious, Nino scanned his surroundings and wondered, "Where am I?" Panic surged within him as fragmented memories of his past life swirled in his mind. Beside him, he discovered Chase and a peculiar, seal-like creature. The creature greeted him warmly, saying, "Good, you're finally awake." Nino's mind raced in confusion, and he struggled to comprehend the bizarre turn of events. The seal placed a comforting hand on his head and observed, "It appears your body is no longer in critical condition, so you're fine." At that moment, a towering shark-like figure nodded in silent agreement. The seal continued, "Your mental state has stabilized thanks to the drugs administered by Mr. Chase." Although relieved that both he and Chase were safe, Nino noticed his body still trembled uncontrollably, sweat streaming down his face, as if he were caught in a relentless storm of anxiety. Lying on the floor, Nino looked up at Chase, who ordered him, "Return to bed. Even if we move now, nothing will change." Desperate, Nino protested, "I don't want you to take me. I know you're the best. I know you're strong." He recalled how in the heat of battle, Chase had fearlessly confronted a group of aliens, a memory that filled him with both admiration and hope. In that moment, Nino realized just how formidable his companion truly was. Before long, Chase produced a folded piece of paper and placed it before Nino. With trembling hands, Nino unfolded it and was astonished to see a detailed portrait of an alien alongside Jack. The document clearly marked both their images and confirmed that they had bounties on their heads. In a cold, measured tone, Chase stated, "You both were my prey. You both have a bounty on your head." The shark grinned and said, I don't know what you did, but you both were on the wanted list. Nino looked at the image in confusion. Chase then asked, "It seems like you didn't get it? This guy in the picture is you, right?" Nino examined the image more closely, still shocked. It had only been a short while since he had assumed this new body, and to him, all the aliens appeared almost identical. He couldn't even tell if the image truly depicted him. Sensing his confusion, Nino pressed further. Do I really look like this image? Unlike many reincarnation stories, where one finally sees the reflection, Nino had never had the chance to view his own face in a mirror or even in a water reflection until now. The shark confirmed, "That's right, you do look exactly like the image." He then advised, "You need to get some rest." Both the shark and the seal looked concerned for him. Chase, who did not fully understand Nino's circumstances, was not a brutal person. He wouldn't harm an innocent soul. Later, Chase and the seal sat down together for some herbal tea. Chase asked, "Did he sleep?" And the seal, known as Kappa, replied thoughtfully, "I think so. Those herbs hanging above him are meant to provide relaxation and relief for tired eyes. Consuming them has a wonderful effect, though the smell is rather potent." Chase mused, "Aren't those herbs supposed to make him sleep too?" With a teasing smile, Kappa retorted, "Your fishy odor is enough to keep me awake." After a brief pause, Chase declared, "I'm going to help him. In the end, that's what will happen." Kappa sighed, adding, "I know you're a caring person, but remember, Nino belongs to the Nautilus species, one of the highest-ranking alien species. Do you really think he'll accept your help after finding out you once tried to hunt him?" Chase smiled and replied, "That's a good point. We are very different. My species is known for its predatory instincts, while his is celebrated for exceptional sensitivity, advanced finesse, and a wealth of knowledge. He comes from a race renowned for wisdom, which is far more important than mere sensory ability. It's true that most Nautilus individuals tend to be arrogant, but Nino is remarkably strange." Kappa inquired, "Strange?" Chase explained, "In typical cases, a Nautilus like Jack is relegated to labor, their relationship viewed as one of subordination, but in our case, the Jack tribe is allowed a voice. They interact on equal terms, free from discrimination, and contrary to all social norms, Nino truly cares about Jack. It's the first time I've seen someone like him. Even in this miserable world, the two of you have found something to genuinely care about." Kappa nodded and said, "I see. You found your own little oasis in this sandy westland, haven't you?" Chase grinned broadly and replied, "I don't really get such comparisons," and after a moment of reflection, Kappa asked, "Has the person who kidnapped Jack already handed him over to the Medusa siblings?" With a smirk, Chase shook his head. "No, they haven't. The bounty has two conditions for the reward. First, to deliver both Jack and Nino as a pair, and second, to ensure they're both alive. They targeted Jack because he's light and his species is known for durability, while the Nautilus species, like Nino, has a sturdier build and won't be injured as easily. That's why these kidnappers are so well prepared. They plan to strike with precision. We need to prepare ourselves as well." As the scene shifted, Nino began moving out. Nino was determined to save Jack and moved with a weakened yet resolute stride. "Wait for me, Jack! I will definitely save you," he called out, his voice filled with determination. On a dark full moon night, Nino was sprinting along a deserted pathway, unaware that countless watchful eyes were fixed upon him. As he moved through the gloom, several aliens recognized him immediately. They had finally found the person on the wanted list. Silently and stealthily, they began to follow him through the shadows. Suddenly, Nino's sixth sense flared. He swiftly turned to look behind him, but the dark road appeared empty. A creeping nervousness overtook him. The eerie silence of the city road deepened his anxiety. Then, without warning, a flash of light streaked through the darkness. Nino's body reacted instinctively, and he managed to dodge an attack that nearly struck his foot. The projectile was a chain weapon so powerful that its impact shattered the ground beneath him. Shortly afterward, taunting voices echoed in the distance, shouting, "He's my prey!" The sound sent a jolt of terror through him as several pairs of glowing eyes locked onto his every move. At once, orders rang out from the aliens, commanding a chase. Nino bolted in mounting panic. If he were caught, it would spell disaster for both him and Jack. With no alternative, he knew he had to escape the town as quickly as possible. However, his path was abruptly blocked by a giant, green, one-eyed alien accompanied by its rider. The diminutive rider, who bore a striking resemblance to Jack's species despite sporting a different hairstyle, arrogantly declared, "I am a genius, and I knew you'd pass through here. I'm here with my giant mount to block your way. You have no other choice. Be a good boy and surrender quietly." Before the rider could finish his sentence, Nino acted with lightning speed. He deftly slipped between the legs of the giant alien, shocking both the rider and its mount. Enraged, the small, sluggish rider began to shout and pummel the giant's head relentlessly, while the towering creature cried out for forgiveness, utterly bewildered by the assault. Just then, a woman arrived on the scene and announced, "It's a waste to chase after Nino because he is a nautilus. There's no way you can match his speed." She explained that despite their best efforts, the bounty hunters had failed to capture him. Undeterred by the chaos, Nino continued to run with astonishing speed toward the city gate, determined to escape, knowing that his very survival as well as Jack's depended on it. He pushed forward even as additional aliens appeared, intent on capturing him. They hurled sharp chains in his direction, but Nino managed to dodge each one with desperate agility. Still, his fear only grew as two large, black-cloaked aliens with enormous, unblinking eyes began to pursue him with lightning speed. Nino was nearly at the exit when he suddenly heard a commotion behind him. Turning around, he discovered that the two aliens had abruptly turned and were fleeing in terror. Confused, he wondered aloud, what could have scared them so badly? Unbeknownst to him, danger still lurked in the shadows. A colossal purple eye, larger than the creature's own body, had appeared. This eye belonged to a giant, spiky, chameleon-like beast with razor-sharp claws. Startled by this new threat, Nino anxiously and slowly turned his head to look behind him. His body trembled uncontrollably as fear froze him in place. Just as the beast lunged with lethal intent, Nino clutched his head and collapsed onto the ground, overcome with terror. After a harrowing moment of silence, he slowly lifted his gaze to discover that the predator had, in a surprising twist of fate, become the prey. Another massive monster had intervened in their vicious battle, slaughtering the spiky beast in a display of raw power. The brutal sounds of their combat echoed ominously, and every clash heightened Nino's terror. He tried to command his body to move, but it refused to obey him. Then, as if from nowhere, a swarm of small carnivorous dinosaurs burst onto the scene. They attacked the giant monsters with ruthless ferocity, completely ignoring Nino. In the ensuing chaos, the larger beasts turned on each other, locked in their struggle for survival, while the diminutive predators assailed both sides indiscriminately. Nino watched, utterly astonished, as the scene unfolded like a chaotic reenactment from a prehistoric movie. Realizing that this bizarre melee might provide him with a chance to escape, he prepared to seize the opportunity. But as he turned his head forward, Nino found himself face to face with a small dinosaur. The creature roared fiercely at him, its call immediately drawing the attention of the entire pack. In an instant, all the little predators converged, poised to hunt him down. Panic surged through Nino as he stood paralyzed in the midst of this onslaught, his heart pounding in terror. Every instinct screamed at him to run, yet the enemy seemed to have encircled him, with no hope of escape. As the dinosaurs were about to devour Nino, someone threw a wrapped object near him. The item released a potent stench, disgusting to Nino yet irresistible to the dinosaurs, who recognized the aroma as their favorite food. The creatures began tearing at the cloth, and one of the dinosaurs called out to its companions, urging them to feast on what appeared to be a delicious dish. Meanwhile, Nino watched, frozen in shock, waiting for his turn. Amid the commotion, someone whispered his name, but Nino was too absorbed by the sight of the dinosaurs eating to register the sound. Then the person tossed a small pebble at him. Surprised, Nino looked up and recognized the familiar face of Chase. The shark guide gestured for him to remain quiet and pointed in the direction they needed to move. Nino was stunned that Chase was now permitting him to leave the city. Time was of the essence, so Chase swiftly picked him up and slung him over his shoulder. "Tighten your seatbelt," Chase ordered, as they prepared to take flight. With a sudden leap, Chase jumped, while Nino let out a terrified scream. "Where are we going?" Nino demanded. Chase replied curtly, "I have urgent business right now. I'm going to save Jack." This revelation startled Nino, who turned to look at Chase's determined face. Chase continued. I have my own issues with the bandits who kidnapped Jack. We both have unfinished business with them, so let's stick together. If you don't need my help, I'll send you back where you came from. Nino hesitated before asking, Will you really help me? Chase grinned broadly, instilling a momentary sense of hope. Meanwhile, near the base of the area where the black aliens had kidnapped Jack, evidence of their brutal encounter was visible. Some of the aliens lay dead, while others still clung to life, their bodies ravaged by some unknown force. Jack, meanwhile, was confined inside a container, unconscious yet sporting a faint, hopeful smile on his face. In the rugged, spiky rock area, Nino and Chase continued moving. Nino noticed that his surroundings had changed dramatically and anxiously asked, How much longer until we arrive? Chase replied, We're here already. It's about time for a welcome. Looking around, Chase remarked, That's strange, we're in their territory, so why is no one attacking us? Nino offered his own theory. It's night, so maybe they're all asleep. Chase countered, That might actually work in our favor. If there's no one guarding their base, we might slip through unnoticed. Just then, his senses detected something unexpected. Nino suggested, Maybe everyone is just out celebrating the capture of Jack by drinking. Their conversation was abruptly cut short when the same black alien that Chase had previously defeated, and the very one that had injured Jack, teleported right in front of them. Nino recognized the foe instantly, and fury boiled within him. But before he could react, the alien suddenly fell to the ground. Confused, Nino asked, Did you already attack it? I didn't see you move. Chase replied calmly, It wasn't me. I'm not that fast. Then, to their astonishment, they noticed that a parasite had detached from the host body. Without hesitation, Chase smashed the parasite with his foot. Nino protested, Why are you so abrupt? We needed to interrogate it. But Chase had already dispatched it, leaving nothing behind but a stain of purple blood. These parasites couldn't speak. They were terribly frightened. There must have been something truly horrifying that happened to them. After dealing with the parasite, they realized that those scavenging creatures had devoured much of the black alien's flesh. Consequently, they decided to head toward the black alien settlement. This mission was no longer solely about rescuing Jack. If something were truly wrong, then the entire village would be in danger. Nino remarked, I thought we were just going to save Jack. Weren't all those black aliens supposed to be the bad guys? Chase fell silent for a moment before replying. To put it plainly, the scavengers, these parasites, are known for their role in disposal. Normal scavengers decompose corpses by consuming their flesh, a process that plays a vital role in keeping the earth clean. However, these particular rotworms are unusual. The younger ones prefer to feast on fresh, living flesh. A single worm may be harmless, but when they swarm in groups, they can devour an entire creature in an instant. That means the whole black alien village is now in danger. Nino's worry deepened as he thought of Jack's fate. What if they eat him? Suddenly, screams erupted from the village. It became clear that the settlement had been attacked by these parasites. They were voraciously consuming the flesh of a black alien. Chase quickly deduced that only the survivors remained, but there was no sign of Jack anywhere. Nino bolted toward the village, intent on finding Jack, but Chase intercepted him. It's not just the insects that are dangerous, he cautioned. When Nino ignored his warning and surged ahead, Chase grabbed his hand and shouted, Don't get ahead of yourself. Assess the situation before acting. Nino protested, but that little alien is fighting desperately to save his own life. I have to help him. Meanwhile, Chase noticed a young black alien child clutching a wand and attempting to fend off the parasites, his cries filled with fear. You came to rescue Jack. Don't let your emotions cloud your judgment and blindly aid some stranger, Chase scolded. Nino fell silent and, in a trembling tone, admitted, Jack helped me a lot. Even though he was a complete stranger, I can't ignore anyone in need. Firmly, he declared to Chase that abandoning those under attack was absolutely not an option. Wait, I will help you, he shouted. As he lunged forward, Chase stepped in and tripped him with his leg, causing Nino to fall to the ground. Confused and frustrated, Nino glared at Chase, about to demand an explanation. Chase simply smiled and said, The situation is chaotic. This is your chance to step in. Now tell me, what is more important to you, saving a stranger's child or rescuing your best friend Jack? What is more important? Furious, Nino muttered, Even if you say so, then why are you, a stranger, helping them so much? With that, he rushed to save the child. The alien child, his eyes brimming with tears, cried out in a language Nino couldn't understand. Nino leapt over the onrushing parasites just in time, grabbed the child, and pulled him away. The child, enraged and terrified, struggled in Nino's arms, shouting for him to let go. Nino tried to reassure him, saying, "I'm not your enemy. What are you doing?" At that moment, they noticed Chase holding an adult black alien, possibly the injured parent of the child, whom he had been protecting from the parasites. The child, sensing relief, moved closer to his parent with teary, happy eyes. A brief, heartwarming moment passed as the alien family exchanged words in their native tongue, words that Nino could not understand. Chase explained to Nino, "This is the child's mother. She was attacked by those parasites and is utterly exhausted, and the child was trying desperately to protect her." He added, "It's dangerous to rush in without understanding the situation properly." Nino, realizing his mistake, asked for forgiveness. The child then approached him and raised its neck in a gesture of gratitude, uttering words in its native language. Confused, Nino listened as Chase translated, "This boy is saying thank you, and I will do anything to repay your favor." Nino wondered, anything? And, sitting down beside the boy, asked if he had seen Jack. The child remained silent, its expression unreadable. Clearly, it did not understand Nino's language. Chase stepped in and translated Nino's words for the boy, and soon, Nino received a heartfelt embrace. Later, the child guided them to a location where Jack might be found, a hidden underground area. They ascended a narrow staircase into a dim cave illuminated by the flickering light of shell aliens perched atop the ceiling. Nino asked anxiously, "We left the child and his mother there. Will they be okay?" Chase reassured him, "Don't worry, I've secured them a safe place." Then, recalling Nino's earlier question about why a stranger like him was helping, Chase explained, "Regarding your question, why would I help a complete stranger? Because you are truly an alien, aren't you? In this cruel star system, I can find peace among those who share my nature. That's why I extend my help even to strangers." Nino was baffled by this remark. "What do you mean by that?" Chase replied, "In this ruthless universe, our shared alien nature binds us. It's the reason I help, despite our differences." Suddenly, Chase sensed something. "Jack is close," he announced. At once, Nino rushed forward. They discovered an empty room within the cave, and there, inside a container, lay Jack, barely conscious. Chase ordered him to wait as the ground began to tremble violently, and then, amid the shaking earth and at the end, tentacles emerged from the darkness, foreshadowing further danger. Nino grabs the container and shouts at Jack to wake up. He's here to save him. He tries to open the lid, but it won't budge. Chase then hands him a sharp claw and tells him to use it. As Nino applies the claw, the lid opens easily, and they manage to get Jack out, but he remains unconscious. After a moment, Jack slightly opens his eyes and, in a faint voice, tries to call Nino. Overcome with emotion, Nino feels relieved that he was able to save his one and only friend in this unknown world. Chase warns him that they need to leave immediately, as parasites are still lurking. Nino suddenly remembers that Chase is right. He must hurry back to help the villagers. But when he expresses this, Chase is shocked and questions what Nino is talking about. Nino, equally shocked by Chase's reaction, insists that they can't just leave the villagers to be hunted down by the rot bugs, which attack even the dead. The child they saved earlier is still in danger. "You can't ignore those innocent people, right?" Nino asks. Chase scoffs. "So you're choosing to put these strangers before your own life?" Jack, in a faint voice, murmurs that they should help the people. Suddenly, the cave trembles violently, as if struck by a massive earthquake. Nino asks if it really is an earthquake, but Chase's senses immediately detect something far worse. He shouts, "We need to get back to the surface, now!" Just then, the cave wall shatters and a gigantic rot bug emerges. It's massive, its tentacles tearing through the ceiling's rock formations. The falling debris threatens to crush Nino and Chase, but Chase pushes Nino aside, taking the hit himself. As Nino regains his footing and looks toward Chase, Chase insists he's fine and there's no need to worry. However, the truth is different. Sharp rock spikes have pierced his body. As Chase staggers forward, lost in thought, memories of his past life surface. Before being reincarnated into this world, Chase was a strong and fearless girl who never backed down from a challenge. And in that past life, She had someone, a big brother she deeply admired. That's right, Nino's kindness reminds Chase of him. In this unfamiliar world, there is no one else who evokes that same feeling. Snapping back to the present, Chase turns to Nino and asks, "You said you'd protect the villagers, so what's your plan?" Nino, determination burning in his eyes, replies, "I have something I want to try." Nino analyzes their situation carefully. Their opponent is a monstrous creature with a gigantic body. There's no way he can take it on alone. But this time it's different. He has support. Nino turns to Chase for advice, wanting to know if there's a way to lure the adult insect to the surface. Chase looks confused. Nino reminds him that when they first arrived at this village, they noticed the sharp rock formation surrounding it, even beneath the village itself. Chase quickly understands Nino's plan and praises him for his sharp thinking. Knowing his role in the plan, Chase explains the best way to lure the giant bug to the surface. Nino has to become a thief. The giant bug is in the middle of laying its eggs, literally through its mouth, cradling them against its chest. Suddenly, a small pebble hits the ground, catching the monster's attention. As its massive head turns toward the sound, Nino seizes the opportunity, sneaking in to steal an egg. He feels anxious. It's his first time stealing, but he forces himself to stay focused. However, the moment he grabs the egg, the creature notices him. Without hesitation, Nino dashes away, clutching the egg tightly. According to their plan, he must lure the giant bug toward the bridge. Normally, during its egg-laying season, the giant bug remains underground, and this one has specifically built its nest beneath the village to recover its strength by consuming everything above. If it succeeds, the entire village will be destroyed. As planned, Nino successfully leads the enraged monster away and reaches the surface. Suddenly, the ground trembles violently as the bug erupts from below, its massive form towering over him. Chase also appears nearby, rushing toward him. Nino, startled, shouts, "Don't scare me like that!" But then his eyes land on Chase's shoulder. Two sharp spikes are lodged in it. Concerned, Nino asks about his injury, but Chase brushes it off, insisting he can still complete their plan. He instructs Nino to head to the bridge and hold the rope tightly. As Nino moves toward the bridge, the monstrous bug chases after him. Chase grins as he pulls out a sharp knife. He had always thought Nino was weak and cowardly, but it turns out he was wrong. Without wasting another second, Chase slashes the ropes supporting the bridge. The structure collapses, and the giant bug plunges into the rocky abyss below. Nino, who had been hanging onto the rope, looks down to see the creature impaled by countless jagged spikes, completely motionless. It's dead. But before Nino can breathe a sigh of relief, the rope he's clinging to starts to tear apart. Just as he thinks he's about to fall, Chase suddenly appears, extending his long tail for Nino to grab. From a distance, Jack, now conscious, shouts for him to hold on. Nino, relieved to see Jack awake, calls out to him, asking if he's okay. With Jack's encouragement, Nino grips Chase's tail and pulls himself up. However, before they can fully recover, a sudden sharp pain shoots through Chase's hand. A spear has pierced it. Their relief turns into horror as they realize that the village tribespeople are attacking them. Furious, the villagers surround them, taking them hostage. In their unknown language, they accuse Nino, Chase, and Jack of bringing the giant bug upon their village. The crowd murmurs in agreement, branding them as culprits. Just then, a small figure pushes through the crowd. The adults try to stop him, warning that it's dangerous, but the child rushes forward and hugs Nino tightly. "I'm so glad you're safe, big brother Nino," he cries. Both Nino and Chase immediately recognize the boy, while Jack looks confused. Nino gives a heartfelt smile and says he's relieved the child is safe. Their interaction shifts the tense atmosphere. The little boy quickly explains to the villagers that Nino and his companions are the ones who saved his life and protected their village. The villagers, who had initially mistaken them for kidnappers, are stunned. For a while now, their village had been living in fear. Children had been disappearing, and their population had been reduced by more than half. They had assumed that Nino's group was responsible, especially after seeing the sharp claw knife in their possession. Realizing their mistake, the villagers untie them and apologize. As a token of gratitude, they offer Nino a necklace. Nino appreciates the gesture and is about to politely refuse the gift, but Jack immediately interrupts. Chase grins, saying, "If they don't want it, I'll take it all." Jack then explains that the stone in the necklace is called Lone Wine, an extremely precious gem. Nino suddenly remembers that Jack is right. They currently need money. Curious, he asks for more details about the stone. Chase explains that loan is a rare material with immense value. Nino asks, "Can we win the Earth in exchange of this?" Chase was taken aback upon hearing Nino's intentions and asked him whether he was genuinely interested in bidding for Earth, even though he himself didn't know the exact bidding price. He remarked that the value of the loan stone, which was their only material for trade, was as insignificant as pocket money for a rich kid. Hearing this, Nino lost all hope and sank into despair, though Jack tried to comfort him by saying that loan was still a valuable material. Chase then whispered that he had never thought bidding on Earth was such a foolish idea, nor had he realized others like him existed. This revelation stunned both Nino and Jack. Nino, visibly shocked, asked Chase if he also intended to bid on Earth. Chase didn't directly respond, but instead questioned Nino about why he wanted to buy the planet. Nino admitted he wasn't even sure if it was worth it, but ever since waking up on this alien world, he had realized how safe and comforting Earth truly was. That feeling of belonging, he said, made him want to go back, and that was the reason he wanted to win the bid so he wouldn't lose his place of return. Chase, after a pause, expressed curiosity about Nino's life on Earth. Jack eagerly chimed in, saying he too wanted to know. With a grin, Chase teased Jack, asking if he was also interested in Earth. To which Jack responded with excitement that it was his favorite planet. Turning to Nino, Jack added that anyone willing to spend hundreds of millions must have a strong emotional attachment. Nino hesitated and admitted he didn't even know where to begin. Jack cheerfully encouraged him to share anything, memories, emotions, family, or friends, because that's what truly mattered. Chase also agreed, urging him to recall any moment that held meaning. As soon as the topic of family came up, a flood of memories overwhelmed Nino. He recalled how 10 years ago he had lived with his grandmother after losing his parents as a child. She had raised him with immense love, and they would often take peaceful walks in the mountains. A vivid memory stood out. During spring, they would visit the tombs of their ancestors, surrounded by beautiful cherry blossoms planted by his grandmother in memory of their deceased loved ones. Those blossoms, he said, still lived within his heart, reminding him of his parents' presence. He wondered if, by now, a tree had been planted in his memory too. Jack was fascinated and expressed his desire to witness the cherry blossoms himself. Nino, now resolute, said he would do everything in his power to protect those memories by bidding on Earth. Chase smiled and asked if he could join in the bidding process. Jack immediately welcomed his help, but Nino scolded him for being too trusting. However, Chase explained that he had some unfinished business with Earth as well and wanted to increase their chances, even if only by 1%. Jack vouched for Chase, saying he had always helped them, and after a moment's thought, Nino agreed. Though unsure if they could match the wealth of the other bidders, he was grateful for the support. After a firm handshake, Nino noticed Chase's injured shoulder and reminded everyone they still needed to remove his slave chain. Thus, they resumed their journey toward the extraordinary doctor. Hours later, Jack grew tired from all the walking. Chase remarked that at this pace they wouldn't make it in time, but also acknowledged how difficult it must be for someone Jack's size to burn so much energy just to keep up. They decided to take a break and lit a campfire with shell-like aliens nearby. Jack soon fell asleep, exhausted from their recent capture and escape. Nino wondered what lay ahead, whether aliens were still chasing them for their bounty and how they would earn enough money. When Chase noticed the worried expression on Nino's face, he asked what was bothering him. Nino simply said that money was the biggest source of anxiety and asked how auctions worked in this world. Chase explained that the concept of currency here was different. Gold held no value, but energy-producing materials like lodestones were incredibly precious. These stones were crystallized forms of energy found in air, water, and earth. Nino was surprised, having expected coins or credits, and realized they would need to find a mine. The more lodestones they had, the easier life would become, since they were essentially life energy. But such stones were rare and often guarded by dangerous creatures, making any attempt to mine them incredibly risky. Chase added that earning money, no matter the world, was always difficult. Then he revealed something more disturbing: rumors that one of the Narguns had taken interest in Earth. Nino, unfamiliar with the name, asked who they were. Chase explained that Narguns were notorious aliens known for crimes like human trafficking and the overhunting of rare species, responsible for destroying countless planets. Horrified, Nino shouted in disbelief at the thought of such beings bidding on Earth. Chase said Nargun members shared a common tattoo. At that moment, Jack suddenly awoke in a panic, looked around, and convinced himself it had just been a dream. Nino wondered if Jack had experienced a nightmare. Just then, a weak, trembling voice was heard near the edge of their camp. An old alien appeared, drawn to the warmth of their fire, and politely asked if he could sit by it for a while. Before anyone could respond, the frail being collapsed. Nino rushed to catch him and asked if he was all right. The elderly alien whispered a request. He needed to be taken to someone named Dr. Fuji. Nino turned to Chase, asking if it was okay to help him. Chase agreed, saying they weren't far from their destination anyway. As Nino helped lift the old man onto his back, he noticed a strange, unique pattern imprinted on the man's back, something that made him curious. After walking for some time, they finally arrived at a small clinic. Chase asked the others to wait while he went ahead to call the doctor, but just as he approached the building, he was suddenly struck and thrown back. Nino and Jack were shocked. Jack panicked, unsure what was happening. While they searched for Chase, a calm but stern voice emerged from inside the house, declaring that the clinic was closed and reminding them she had said so before. A woman then stepped out and walked toward the injured Chase. Chase, grinning through the pain, greeted her with a familiar tone and said, "It's been a while.